Hello and welcome to Lansing Pulse. I'm Ken Miller, joined as always by City Administrator Tim Vandall. Tim, we're about halfway through March as we're recording this, and that means that work has begun on the city's 2023 budget, as you well know. Pretty much mostly good news when it comes to commercial development and our revenue situation. I think that's a fair statement. What are some of the early highlights for the upcoming budget? And I remember the last couple of years we've done this show specifically in March. There was a lot of uncertainty because of what was going on with the pandemic, but it seems to be a little more solidified now.
You know, you're right. But so first off, we haven't had a city council work session yet, but I will tell you it's been interesting. I think a lot of people got their property tax valuation letters a couple of weeks ago, and I think I had heard Lansing's total valuation is going to go up around 10 or 12%. So I think that's going to be one of the dominant themes in this year's budget is, you know, how do we reconcile this 12% increase in our valuation with what we do with our property tax rate? I think that's something the council is going to look at closely and really evaluate ideas. You know, there's going to be discussion about a lot of long-term projects and how we pay for them. So one of the ideas that citizens always throw out to us is a pool, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, you know, pools aren't cheap. Even the least expensive pool that we can find is probably at least $5 or $6 million. So it's a question of, well, how do we pay for something like that? So those will be some of the discussions we'll talk about a little bit during our budget season. Some of the other long-term projects that we've talked about, though, that have a long-term perspective is that next phase of DeSoto Road. So DeSoto from Ida Street to 4H, and maybe that roundabout at that intersection. Or there's also been discussion about Gilman Road, connecting Gilman Road from where it terminates right now to 147. So that's another project that we might look at. Maybe we'll talk about some more substantial economic development incentives, especially in that town center area. Another thing that I think our council is keenly aware of, that I think citizens need to be aware of too, all of our maintenance, our road maintenance and everything, that's probably going to be a lot more expensive the next couple of years. You know, you look at what the price of oil has done recently, so much of our maintenance is based around the price of asphalt. And so that's going to be another one of those things. Will the council decide to increase that asphalt mill and overlay budget by 12%? Or will they say, well, let's keep that number there and maybe do 12% less roads than we've done in years past? So there's going to be a lot of interesting discussions this budget season, you know, in some ways tough discussions, because so many of these large-scale projects that we want to do, you know, obviously everything costs money. So, but you're right, overall, it makes the budget a little bit easier when valuations go up, but they went up so much that I think our council people are getting a lot of feedback from our residents, and maybe understandably so. So I think that's going to be a dominant theme from this year's budget is how we reconcile those substantial increases with what our mill levy is.
All right, it's no secret that both public and private entities are having a bit of a struggle finding employees. I mean, you can't turn on the news without hearing about the great, you know, resignation and whatnot. All right, so let's start with some good news, though. Lansing has a new city clerk. We found a new employee.
Exactly.
Talk a little bit about Tish Sims.
You know, I am just so thrilled that we got someone of her caliber to join our team. So Tish had been an assistant city clerk in Missouri for 10 years, and then the last 4 years, she had been the city clerk of Hiawatha. Beyond that, she just recently got certified with her certified municipal clerk designation. She's working on her master municipal clerk designation. She's a co-chair of a committee on the Kansas chapter of CCM FOA, that's City Clerks Municipal Finance Officers Association. So she's really got quite the resume. Beyond that, she's just a fantastic person, very easy to talk to. That first interview, you know, we had never met her, and she came in for that first interview, and it felt like we had known her for years. Right. So just thrilled to have her on the team, thrilled that someone with her qualifications is coming on board with us. So we're just really pleased to have her on the team.
Okay, so kind of a related question. The city is about to embark on a salary benefits survey for its non-police employees, and that's because police had their salary survey late last year. What is the intention behind this upcoming salary and benefits survey?
You know, you touched on it during that previous question. It's just getting harder and harder to find really good employees, and that's, you know, the basis for this is making sure that we're competitive with neighboring and comparable communities, and not only that, but trying to do right by our current employees. So that's one component of it, but also, like we talked about earlier too, inflation. It's one of those things that, you know, an employee making X dollars a year who was compensated fairly a few years ago, that might be X times 5, or X with 5% increase on top of that. So that's one of those things that we need to look at for all of our positions. And where it's interesting too, from my perspective, there are certain positions that recently have been more challenging to fill. A lot of times positions in our street department or wastewater department are harder to fill than administrative positions. So those are the types of things that we're going to be looking at with this salary study. And also, I think we're going to look at benefits a little bit too, just to see where we shape up with benefits in comparison to comparable communities. So right now, I think for one of our main health insurance plans, we'll pay 80% of a health insurance plan, and it'll be interesting to see what other communities do and how much they contribute to family plans and things like that. So this will be a good study for us to see where we're at in relation to our neighbors.
The timing is interesting, and I don't know how long this survey would take, but obviously you're also crafting a budget for 2023. And while employees' salaries and benefits aren't a humongous part of your annual budget, it is a significant part. Is it something where you'll have this information before the final budget is crafted, or no?
I think we're going to have a general idea of what it is, and then I think by the time the final budget is due in that August time frame, I think we'll have a better idea. But when we're doing our first couple of work sessions in May and June, we probably won't have an exact number. But you're right. I mean, that is certainly a piece of our budget, and depending on how that shakes out, that's going to impact our budget this summer. So we'll see how everything goes. But like I said, it's about finding and retaining good employees and doing right by our current employees, who we're really thankful for.
Okay. All right. The weather's starting to warm up. It's supposed to be 75 degrees today. Hopefully no more snow and ice, but the weather change also means road construction season. And we've kind of alluded to this on and off the last few months. There's a very large project, it's pending, and that's of course at the intersection of K7 and Eisenhower. Everybody got a taste of that when there was utility movement last year. Where does that project stand currently? And I know it's still in the quote-unquote administrative phase. They're not out there today obviously tearing up asphalt, but where does it stand currently?
So the bid opening for that project is March 23rd. So hopefully we'll have good news next week, and then that would be approved by the council at their April 7th city council meeting. So I would imagine our residents might start seeing some stirring around in that area, maybe in mid to late April. I believe it's a 5 or 6 month construction time frame. So hopefully it would be wrapped up by mid to late November.
Before the snow flies.
Before the snow flies, exactly. But you know, the one thing that, you know, we've talked about this so much, but we need to do what we can to get the word out there. That intersection is going to be very congested for 5 or 6 months.
Right.
And so any time when people can use detours or anything like that, please do that. Or, you know, one of the other things that we'll tell people too is if you do need to go to one of those businesses, do it during a non-peak hour.
Right.
Don't go there at 5 p.m. So I know in my example, we buy all of our dog food at Tractor Supply, and sometimes I'll punch out of work, go there at 5:05 and buy my dog food. I'm probably not going to be going to Tractor Supply at 5 p.m.
That's going to be over the lunch hour.
Exactly. That'll be over my lunch hour during a non-peak hour to do that. So examples of that. So try to, you know, plan your errands and trips in advance because that intersection, it will be congested for a few months. But I also want to emphasize too, once that project is complete, the traffic flow is going to be so much smoother over there.
It's going to be safer.
It's going to be a lot safer. And also, I mean, we're working with Leavenworth on that project. They've been a great community partner, and I think people like it when local governments can work together. I think sometimes people always hear these horror stories about cities or counties, suing each other or disagreeing about things, whatever.
Right.
And we've got this really positive relationship with the city of Leavenworth where we're working with them on this project that's going to improve the lives of our citizens. So we're excited about that. There's going to be some headaches, but when it's complete, it's going to be fantastic.
All right, how about a development update?
So citizens may have seen some prominent properties along K7. There's signs that say under contract. So there's some companies that are wrapping up engineering, design, and concept plans and things like that. So we're pretty excited about that. So hopefully we'll have a couple of new businesses, some new jobs, some new sales tax generators up and down that K7 corridor. So I think that'll be good. From a residential standpoint, we're hoping to see that next phase of Fairway Estates maybe get started maybe in later this year, I would hope. Maybe
Describe where that is in the city.
So right now there is Pebble Beach Drive and it terminates at the end of, there's Fairway Estates and then there's a Pebble Beach Drive that is off of Holiday. So Pebble Beach would go all the way through, kind of close to the golf course. So there would be 4 or 5 lots that would butt up to that pond where there's some houses there currently. So yeah, generally the west side of Lansing. But anyway, I think it's going to be fantastic to see some new homes in Lansing. But again, those new homes, they don't get built overnight.
Right.
The developer has to put in sewer lines, water lines, streets before you can even start digging foundations. So we'll see some new homes eventually, but it'll probably be a little bit of dirt work before we see
And while they
homes.
may not be built overnight, in Lansing they seem to be sold overnight, though. They will fly.
That is true. I mean, there is just such a housing shortage right now in Lansing, but also metro-wide. And it seems like if there's a house that's under $400,000 or maybe even a little bit more, it seems like it gets snapped up pretty quick. So you're right, that'll be a good thing for Lansing once we get all those new houses built, get some new residents. But yeah, you're right, they'll probably sell quick.
All right, lastly, talk a little bit about some of the city's Parks and Rec sports programs for the kids, of course. Are we seeing, and this interests me because, we went through 2 years now of the pandemic, and not that our youth sports programs totally dropped off, but I think it's fair to say that maybe they weren't as well populated as they had been. Have you heard anything from the parks folks? Are we seeing an uptick now in registrations now that, fingers crossed, we're kind of sort of out of the pandemic?
So they just gave me a report a week or 2 ago, and so it shows that we have 80 more kids this year signed up for soccer than we had last year. So, that's really good from a Parks and Rec standpoint. It's good for those kids to get out, run around, get out of the house. So we're incredibly thrilled about that. Baseball, softball, t-ball registration is going on now until the end of March, so be sure to register your kids for that. You're right, though. It's been really exciting to see so many more people just get out and enjoy fun community events. We're planning our Independence Day celebration right now. That's going to be at Town Center this year because of all the construction going on at Bernard Park later this year. So, but that's going to be a fantastic event. We've got our Fall Festival coming up in 5 or 6 months. So there's just so many great things going on in Lansing right now from a quality of life standpoint. I'm excited about it. I think our citizens are excited about it. And it's just good for the kids and families to get out there and enjoy life in Lansing a little bit.
All right, I've been speaking with City Administrator Tim Vandall for Lansing Pulse. I'm Ken Miller.